Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to a brand new video here today, and we are discussing 5 things that I think need to be fixed right now in the F1 2021 game. Some of them regarding career mode, and then some of them are kind of wider game issues that I feel like, to me, need to be sorted or looked at in some way, and we need to discuss them in this video. And as always, with these kind of videos, let me know what your personal gripes are with the game at the moment, and I'm sure, it's early days on in the game cycle, so there's going to be a few issues here and there, so if there's enough, we'll make another video in the future in the coming weeks. But this is my kind of first initial 5 things I think need to be fixed in F1 2021. So starting off at number 1, and it's going to be no surprise to those of you that are watching my career mode series right now, is the quick practice wear rate. So that means when you do quick practice, the rate at which your parts wear out, the engine parts, every single one, internal combustion engine all the way down to energy store, the percentage of wear you get following doing a quick practice for FP1, FP2, and FP3 is ridiculous. Like, the internal combustion engine can go from 40% worn to 65 after doing 3 practice sessions. A little bit ridiculous. Now, I don't know whether they've done that on purpose. A few people have suggested in the comments of videos I've done that maybe they're trying to, encourage and force almost the player to invest in durability a bit more, and that's the kind of balancing meta that they want in career mode. That the fact that the player, if they're having to spend more R&D on durability, they're spending less R&D on other parts of the car, and therefore they're having a tougher time to upgrade the car in terms of pure performance, and therefore the career mode's being longed out. Maybe, it's going to take, 3-4 seasons to get to the World Championship status. But that's all well and good, but that doesn't follow the meta or how it is in real life. Like, in real life, well and truly, there's not this much wearing. The whole point of them going to 3 power unit components for some things and then 2 in the case of things like the energy store is because Formula 1 is trying to become more eco, trying to, stop wasting resources. So I feel like, it's the official Formula 1 game. Obviously, I do want there to be some engine wear, because there needs to be a little bit to allow for some penalties here and there, to allow the player faults, the random failures. And I will admit, it is kind of, it is obviously fun in the later part of the season. Sometimes you can get lucky with AI getting engine penalties. You yourself have to be challenged. But I feel like the amount that there is just a little bit overkill. Just a little bit too much, in my opinion. And I think a lot of you guys are agreeing with me. Just because of the quick practice, if anything. If I'm wearing out the engine too much in the quali and the race, and therefore I have to take 5 engines over the course of the season, that's on me. That's my fault. But the fact that I'm doing quick practice as a way to save time, but still get the R&D, still get the boosters, but I'm being penalised so much more by getting 30% wear on everything else, is just a bit too much and a bit too stupid, in my opinion. Number 2, now this is to do with the wider game in general, and this honestly is one of the silliest things that I think I should be bringing up. I don't know why this has to be a thing I'm bringing up, because this was literally in F1 2020, it's been in all the other F1 games, is the fact that you can't change any of the settings you're racing with in career mode or Grand Prix mode or any mode in the game if you've already gone to the session, because it says everything's locked. By that I mean, I was recording the 0% AI challenge, so I set up the race before I started recording, and I forgot to put it on no rules so I could sit there on the grid. So when I went to record it, I couldn't change it from rules on to no rules because we had already loaded into the race, and there's no way to click the pause button whilst it loads in, whilst the load screen's happening, like there was in F1 2020, to change it in those settings. I just don't understand why it was removed. I don't know who thought in QA testing that, oh, calm, that's missing, that's fine, that was in the last game, but for some reason that's a good idea to remove it on this year's game. It just, some of these little foibles like this, I just don't know how it doesn't get picked up in quality control and quality testing before the game comes out. Number 3 is something I've experienced in career mode, but it's to do with general gameplay as well, is the rain transition from wet to dry or dry to wet. In terms of the actual visual graphics we're seeing on screen with the textures, the rain still falling, it's too extreme. It doesn't match up with what the grip levels are. For example, at the Japanese Grand Prix in my career mode, it looked like it was still time for inters. May have been even time to switch on to the full wets, really, to be honest. And yet my game was telling me, my engineer was telling me that it's time to switch to dries. I did. The AI did as well. And lo and behold, we had so much more extra grip, but it still looked like it was time for inters. Now, I know in real life there's been some cases where the track has looked wetter than it is, and that the slicks actually have some pace. That can happen, that's fine, but I think the level at which I saw at Japan was pretty ridiculous, because it just confuses you so much, because your eyes are seeing one thing, and your kind of, your steering wheel, your hands and feet, if you're playing with wheel and pedal, or your hands if you're playing with controller, are saying another thing in terms of the grip levels you're experiencing mid-corner. It's just a bit ridiculous and very unrealistic, and I can see a scenario, there's plenty of scenarios in the future where you get caught out and you're just getting punished for getting caught out versus the AI, because through no fault of your own. Because it's fine if you make a gamble and you get it wrong by going to slicks too early, but you can make a gamble of staying on inters for too long because it looks too wet, whereas the AI have already gone to slicks because they're a computer and they know the grip levels are saying something different to the visual levels that you're seeing through your own eyes. Number 4 is going to be the performance of the cars. Now, this unfortunately comes up every year, and every year I give them the benefit of the doubt, because obviously at launch, I know every time, every F1 game in the history of Formula 1 games has not launched with the performance of the cars at where they're at this current point in the season. They go off, pre-season testing, they go off at the start of the season. Now, in F1 2020, they got blindsided by Ferrari being so much slower than anyone really realised going into pre-season and going into the first few races of that season. So that was fair enough. But this year, we've had a normal year. We've had a normal timeline of pre-season. We've had a normal timeline of all these races. And even through the first race of the season and through the first few races, you could tell that Red Bull was so much closer to Mercedes. So I don't know why we've launched with Mercedes being comfortably quicker than Red Bull at the start of the game on the base layer and at the first few races of the career mode. I just don't... like last year, it was fair enough with Ferrari why they were still in the top 3. But on this year's game, I can't give them the benefit of the doubt. It's now been 3 weeks as well, and I feel like they should have at least brought Red Bull in line with Mercedes. Forget the midfield, at least bring Red Bull in line with Mercedes, and then later down the line have the midfield sorted out in the patch. I know these things take time. I say that every time because I do appreciate how much work goes in to a game to get this stuff sorted, but I feel like in the run-up to the game launch, I think everyone could see where Red Bull were in comparison to Mercedes. So I don't know why Mercedes still ended up being the out-and-out quickest car there. Obviously, in real life, there are tracks where Mercedes are quicker. There's tracks where Red Bull are quicker. That just means that in the game, I feel like pretty much Red Bull and Mercedes should then just be equal performance and just leave it to the AI, like Hamilton and Verstappen's AI in career mode, for example, to make the difference. Leave it to people in, their own performances to make the difference. And number 5 is a general game thing, but kind of also more so with career mode, because obviously I think this would affect career mode more so, is just the starting liveries. And the Podium Pass 1, I think, has been really poor. I really criticised the Podium Pass at the end of the last game cycle, that it needs to be so much better, and it just hasn't gotten any better. Like, the starting liveries, there aren't enough of them. Podium Pass 1, I don't know about other passes, whatever, but Podium Pass 1, the launch Podium Pass, there should be about double the amount of liveries there are at the moment, and there needs to be just better ones. Like, so many of them are just such throwaway ones. Like, the basic starter ones without the Podium Pass are awful. The only good one was the one you got for being loyal for playing F1 2020. And I don't like doing this. It's not often that I am so passionately, berating Cody's and the game, because I love the F1 game. I always like to be positive about the game, especially at launch. It's an exciting new game. But these things need to be said when, for me, it's all well and good. A PC player, after Season 2, I'm going to start modding the game. That's all well and fine. But you console players are just left in the dust with this really subpar Podium Pass that you have to pay for to get certain liveries. Like, it just needs to be so much better. And I know I said there was 5 things that I want to be fixed in F1, but there is a very, very tiny 6th bonus one. And this one, I'll admit, is just a tiny little nitpick from me as a content creator. But in the Saveable replay cameras, these sponsors don't show up. So you can do whatever sponsors you want. If you save the replay and watch it afterwards, the sponsors just aren't there. So you've got a plain car. Little tiny gripe, but that's obviously as a content creator, that matters more because I would maybe like to save the replays because obviously you guys know, if you follow my channel, I pretty much got PTSD from recording replay cameras for videos and the game crashing midway through the replay. So I will be trying to save the replays most times and then just going through to the race results, going through to the next screen, so that if the game crashes during the theatre mode, I've still got the race result. But as a content creator, it doesn't actually help the fact the sponsors aren't there on the car. Again, to be fair, it won't matter to me after Season 2, because I'll be modding the game, so therefore the sponsors aren't actually sponsors I'm putting on the car. But it's a little thing that I feel like just a bit odd. Again, I don't know why that's not being caught up in QA testing, basically, before the launch of the game. So that's 5 things that I think need to be fixed in the F1 2021 game right now and in career mode. As I said, you know, I don't like being this negative or sounding this annoyed or negative, but there are just a few little things where I'm just sat there like, I don't know why this wasn't picked up in testing. I don't know how you don't pick up on the fact that something that was in F1 2020, so simple, clicking pause whilst the game loads from quali to the race or whatever, or loads into a session, you can't change the settings anymore. Like, that's a massive thing. Like, what if you get the wrong settings? Like, well and truly, like, if you mistakenly, I've spoken about this with Jan Otmir, the F1 esports reigning champion. What if you go and do an online race or a Grand Prix mode, change the settings? At the moment, by the way, the game saves those settings, so you could go back into a career mode with the wrong settings, not realize till you've loaded into quali, and then you're screwed because you've got the settings from a different mode or online session you were doing that was entirely different to what you want to do in career mode. It just, like, why hasn't it been picked up, and why hasn't it been patched in by now, 2 weeks after the game's out, or 3 weeks by the time I post this? So if you guys agree with those points and enjoyed the video, then be sure to hit the like button. Like I said, let me know any other gripes that you guys might have personally with the game at the moment, in terms of things that are definitely like game breaking or just kind of issues in the game that weren't there in last year's game, for example, or you think should be kind of rectified, or any kind of unique things you may have experienced in career mode that I've not experienced yet, that need to be maybe addressed in future patches. Let me know in the comments below, and if there are enough in the future, I may do one down the line in a couple of weeks time, just like this video. If you're new around here, do subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.